Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm super excited to be showing you how to make beats like Flying Lotus. So as usual, get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they'll be available. And yeah, let's get started. So the first sound I have in here is this little hi-hat which sounds like this. You can hear it more when I solo it. This is kind of just in there as like a bit of a background layer. Basically, it's just playing quarter notes, and then you can see I moved the 2 and the 4, the 2 and the 4 being these two counts, aka when you usually hear the snare. I moved those back a little bit just to kind of match like the sort of more organic, like offbeat groove here. So this is something I heard in a lot of Flying Lotus's tracks. Basically, like usually he'll have like a little hi-hat like this under the beat, just kind of like. You know, it's just keeping the beat like that. It's really simple. It's just pitched really low. You can see, like, C3 would be the original pitch of the sample. And I have it playing on G, G2, that is. So, yeah, like, just kind of pitched down sort of, like, low and deep. And it just helps to sort of keep the beat and add, like, a little bit more vibe to the beat. The next sound I have here is this little cowbell thing, which sounds like this. You can hear it just kind of goes like that kind of thing. So basically what this is a recording I had of myself actually hitting this cowbell. Yeah, you can hear that. I recorded it a while ago, and it was just something I had, but when I was making this beat, I thought it would sound pretty cool in there. And so I've just gotten it in here. You can see it's just playing those 2 16th notes, and I've got a bit of track delay on it. So if you don't know what track delay is, I will talk about it briefly because it's very important for the style. Basically, what track delay is it's this little dial over here. You turn it on by clicking this little D icon, and what it does is it allows you to move the contents of your track over to the right or to the left. So in this case, I use it to delay this a little bit, and it gives it more groove. I've used it a ton throughout here, and I'll talk about it more as I go through. But if I turn it off here, you can hear. It just doesn't have as much groove, but when we have it a little bit behind like that, it kind of fits the more like organic, again, so I don't want to say like offbeat, but like just kind of like free timing. Like you're not just trying to stay on the grid, you know, it's kind of like off the grid, but still in time, if that makes any sense. So yeah, this is just kind of in there adding a little bit more depth to the beat, I feel like. And it's also playing like sort of call and response with this other percussion sound. This one you can hear, it's kind of like. You know, just stuff like that makes the beat a little bit more interesting to listen to. So the next thing I have here is this tambourine, which sounds like this. So it's this little tambourine sound that you hear. So this is another thing that I've heard in like a lot of Flying Lotus's beats. Like actually, when I first started making this, I literally just started with this hi-hat and the tambourine. Because you can hear those are kind of like those kind of like have that main groove of the beat. Like those are really keeping the rhythm there. And so basically all this is doing is it's just playing this little 16th note here, and then another one here, and then I have it playing on the 3 there. So it's just kind of like an extra little percussion sound. It's kind of like playing off the cowbell a little bit because you get that like that, you know. Again, it's just kind of like extra dimension to the beat. It's really adding a lot to it, I feel like. And yeah, so the next sound I have here is this little percussion, which sounds like this. It's that one that's just playing on the 3 there. So the way I made this was by taking this sound, just kind of like a bell, sort of like Latin percussion style sound, and I basically just put it through the saturation. So you can see I've got the drive up pretty high. I didn't really change anything else. This is just kind of beefing it up, making it a little bit more gritty. And yeah, you can hear just really making it like very textured. Like the title of this video is how to make textured beats like Flying Lotus. And this is a really great way to do it. I'm going to talk about this more when I get to like the overall processing on these drums. But definitely like saturation, light compression, stuff like that just really sort of like blows your beat out, I guess you could say. Like just kind of like, yeah, takes it and makes it a lot more intense and sort of like dirty. It's really good. And like using it on this little percussion sound here, you can hear. It's really adding a lot to that. I've also pitched this up a little bit. You can see it's playing at F3, so it's up higher than that original sample. But yeah, that saturation I think is really helping it. And then the other thing that's going on here is you can see I have a track delayed, so this one is a little bit off from the other one. You can see actually I have 3 of the elements of this track delayed. That cowbell I showed you, and then this other drum rack down here, which I'm going to talk about. And you can see they're all 3 at different times. So this is another thing with the track delay. Like, if you really want to get a human, sort of like I said, like organic sound to your beats, try doing different amounts of track delay. Because, like, if you were, say you were just playing all of these in live, everything would be slightly off, and nothing would just be, like, perfectly, in the same amount of being off. Like, it would always be a little bit different because, of course, you're playing everything at different times. You're not just hitting multiple pads at once. So we kind of want to recreate this. And again, just using that sort of varied track delay is a really good way to do it, even if it's really slight. Like, for example, I have this one at 31, I have the other one at 25, and then I have this drum rack at 30. Like, it's not a whole lot of difference between those, but that very slight difference really goes a long way. So that is it for that sound. The next thing I have here is the kick, which sounds like this. So you can hear this is playing a pretty simple pattern. A lot of times with Flying Lotus's tracks, honestly, the kick isn't doing like a whole lot. Like, it'll just be doing something like this, and then the bass and the sample, or the bass and the synth, or whatever it may be. It's kind of like doing more of the like bounce. Like, the kick is really just like the foundation. Like, that's just what keeps hitting on the one, and kind of like bringing you back to it, you know. And then I have these extra little notes in here as well, like this one and these two. And you can see with those, I've just sort of taken the velocity down a little bit, as well as I've kind of taken them off the grid. So this is just kind of more with like the organic sort of thing. I didn't want to take this entire kick off the grid or use track delay on it, but by taking these 3 notes here and just kind of taking them off the grid, we can still get some kind of like uncertainty in it and some more organic feel. And then with the velocity, it just kind of feels a little bit more like live. Like, you really feel the impact of that kick that's hitting at the full velocity. So that's the kick. The next sound we have here are these shakers and this drum rack, which sound like this. So these are some pretty straightforward shakers. If you've heard Flying Lotus's beats, you know he uses these kind of shakers a ton. Basically what it is I've just got these 2 shakers here that kind of like complement each other. Like, they're not too similar, but they're not so different that it really stands out. And then I just have them playing this pretty simple pattern. I mean, this is a pattern, it's really simple. It's just kind of playing off of everything else. What had happened when I wrote these was I had everything else like this. And then I just kind of put these in, playing off of everything like that. And then I've got it track delayed at 30 milliseconds. So yeah, it's kind of taking it off the grid. If I put this back on the grid, like turn off the track delay, you can hear it's just a little too flat. Like, it's a little too on the beat for me. I feel like this sits a lot better and has a lot more groove. So the only effect that I have on those is I have the saturator. So you can see I've got the drive up to 20 dB, and then I've got the bass frequency on the analog clip turned up a little bit as well. That just kind of helps make it really crunchy. Like, if I turn that off and then back on, you can hear it's really bringing out the crunch in those. So then the next thing we have here is the clap, which is made of 4 layers, and all together it sounds like this. So this is probably the most detailed thing here. Basically what it is like I said, it's 4 layers. I'm just taking these 4 different claps. This one, this one, this one, and then this one. I kind of like layered them together. So we have like these 2 sort of hand claps, which are panned to the left and right ear. And then these 2, which are more down the center. And just kind of more for like the impact. So the goal here is I wanted to make like a really big clap. I think Flying Lotus layers his claps up a lot as well to get these kind of sounds. And the key here is the panning. So like I said, I've got the hand claps, the sort of like softer sounds, pan to the left and the right. Like, those are a little bit softer. They're more like a hand clap. Like, they're not that really like cracky, hard hitting like snare style clap. And then we have this one, which is more of like the crack straight down the center. And same thing with this one, which is kind of like a hand clap, but it's more punchy, so I put it in the middle. So yeah, the layering here is really, really key, I think. Like, if we just had this one punchy clap on its own, it works, but it just isn't as nice as like this whole thing. So I recommend getting like some hand claps or some live clap sounds and try panning them around, as well as having some more like cracky, more snare style claps in the middle. And then the only other thing to talk about with this is you can see I moved it back a little bit. So this is a pretty popular technique. If you know Flying Lotus's music, this is probably like one of the first things that you see when you're trying to like learn how to program beats like him. Is I've just taken all these snares or these claps and move them a little bit back behind the grid. I did the same thing with that hi-hat, the first sound I showed you. It just kind of makes it a little bit rushed, and it gives it a more like organic feel. I feel like it kind of makes you bob your head a little bit more. So those are the claps, and then the last thing I have in here before I show you the group processing is just this last little vinyl noise sample. Pretty simple, just like some vinyl noise. Definitely very important for Flying Lotus' style, and it really helps to give some like context to the beat. Like when you hear this, it feels like you're listening to something. Like you feel like you're kind of going into the world of the song a little bit more, if that makes any sense. It helps again to just sort of give like some context. If I turn it off, you can hear it's cool, but it's just not quite as like vibey as when you have that vinyl noise. So then on the group, I also have a bit of processing, and group processing definitely very important for these drums. So here's what it sounds like with none of this. So yeah, you can hear definitely not quite as cool and textured. So the first thing I have on here is the drum bus, which is set like this. I've turned the damp all the way up, so it's just not doing any cutting. I turned the boom up a little bit as well to make the kick kind of bassier. You can hear it adds a little bit more low end to the kick. And then I've just got the crunch turned up here, and I've got the drive turned up a little bit as well. So that's what's giving it more of the like texture. Is that like crunchy, kind of saturated thing. I've also turned the transients up a little bit. I believe this is just kind of like making it a bit looser. If we turn that off, you can hear it doesn't quite breathe as well. When we turn it up, it's got like more space between the sounds, and yeah, I feel like I said, the beat just breathes a little bit more. So then the last thing I have here is the glue compressor, which sounds like this. So you can hear this is activating pretty heavily. Yeah, it's definitely doing a lot of compression. I mean, something about Flying Lotus's beats and like a lot of these style of beats is they are actually very compressed. There's a lot of compression used on the drums in the style, and that's okay. Like, it's kind of a stylistic thing. Like, I think it sounds good in the context of this. Like, obviously, if you were making like a super, clean sounding like EDM track, you wouldn't want to compress your drums this much. But for something like this where you're just going for like a vibe and texture, this compression really sounds cool. Like you can hear, it just really helps to bring out all those sounds. And if you look at this thing here, I'll go into session view so you can see. Like there's still a pretty good amount of dynamic range in there, even though there's so much compression. But yeah, definitely the compression and the saturation, very important finishing touches to kind of add that like lo-fi sort of textured polish to the sound. So that's pretty much it for this one. I just wanted to show you guys some techniques I picked up on hearing Flying Lotus's music, and this one was requested a bunch. So yeah, so that's going to be it for today, guys. Make sure to let me know what you think of this video in the comments, and make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Once again, you get the project file and samples from this video in the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there. Thank you again, everybody. All the support lately has been so amazing, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.